Hey, my name is Dominic Doan, and my wife and I are new to the Bayside family. We're so excited to be a part of this. We're out now in Santa Rosa. And before being a part of this, we started this nonprofit ministry called Pursuing Faith, which is a ministry all about helping people who are going through seasons of doubt or deconstruction, which, as you know, this is a huge issue in our culture right now. Wrote this book called When Faith Fails, Finding God in the Shadow of Doubt. And we've just seen lives transformed and changed as they've wrestled with their doubts. And it's actually a process that can be incredibly redemptive and life-giving, although at first it can seem overwhelming. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about this morning. There's this verse that I keep coming back to, which I think is one of the best ways to help people deal with doubt. It's Jude, verse 22. It says, "Be merciful to those who doubt." I know there are some people that when they see that verse or even think about the topic of doubt and deconstruction, they have a hard time relating. Maybe this is part of your story or someone that you know and love. It's like they've never really doubted their faith or gone through a season of deconstruction. You know those people when you say, "Hey, when were you first saved?" And they're like, "I've always been saved. I've always been a Christian." They were singing praise songs in their mother's womb. And it's like they came into the world speaking in tongues and haven't looked back since. But for most of us, for most people, going through a time of doubt is actually part of the complicated, enigmatic mess of what it means to be human. There's a philosopher, his name is Michael Novak, and he said that doubt is not so much a dividing line that separates people into different camps, as it is a razor's edge which runs through every soul. Did you know that 2/3 of American Christians say that doubt is part of their story? 45% of Americans undergo some sort of spiritual shift in their life. We've all been there, I think, in some ways. Doubt is the moment when maybe you lose someone to cancer or suicide and you wonder, God, where are you in the midst of this pain? Or you study science and at a surface level, it seems like it makes the Christian story or the Bible seem implausible. Or have you ever prayed and heard nothing but crickets in return? Or maybe you've come across parts of Scripture when it kind of raises more questions than answers. You think of those read through the Bible in a year programs, and I've seen this happen as a pastor over the years. People start out in January in Genesis and they're like super stoked and they read through Genesis because it's fast moving. And then you get to Exodus and there's a ton of stories. And if you miss a chapter, you can always watch the movie. And then you get to Leviticus or Deuteronomy and you come across verses that are kind of hard to understand or get our minds around. Verses like, "Thou shalt not cook a young goat in its mother's milk." And you're like, dang it. And you take the goat out of the pot and you set it outside. How many read through the Bible plans have died the death of Leviticus? So I get it. Reading parts of Scripture can create doubt in our life. There are so many things in our story, in our journey that can feed our doubt. If you've ever played that game kerplunk, remember that? It's like a plastic tower, essentially, that has all of these straws stuck in it. And then marbles are poured out on top. And then one by one in kerplunk, you take out a straw and then another one. And the marbles kind of shift around until someone pulls out that fateful straw and it all comes crashing down. And I think doubt and deconstruction can often look like that and feel like that, where you have a doubt about God's presence or doubt about the Bible and you're pulling out a straw, or maybe you were hurt by a church community, another straw goes. And then there can be those moments in our life when it feels like it all comes crashing down. But here's the good news, is that when we go through seasons of doubt, God doesn't condemn us. God doesn't judge us, but rather He calls us into deeper faith. I think of the disciples in Matthew chapter 28. Jesus had just risen again from the dead, an amazing moment. And He's standing there before His disciples on the mountain. He's about to send them out into the world. And there's this crazy verse there where it says, some believed Him, but some also doubted, which you think about it, they doubted Jesus. Jesus is there. He's resurrected. They could touch Him, but they still doubted. What I love about the story is that Jesus didn't send the doubters home. I probably would have done that, like, hey, go get more education or learn more or increase your faith, then I'll send you out. But Jesus sent out both the doubters and the worshipers. You see, no one showed more mercy to the doubter than Jesus. And it's that kind of compassion, that kind of grace, that kind of mercy that the book of Jude, verse 22 says, we're to show to others in our life who are struggling with their faith. Who in your life, who do you know right now who's struggling, who's doubting, who's deconstructing? Our call is not to judge or critique. Our call is to show mercy to those who doubt.